hiring outlook for 2015, I will link it to the economy of the country, which is looking very bright and which is looking very optimistic. All the key metrics, if you will see the FDI going up, or the inflation getting arrested, or GDP looking on the upside, or equity market, trying to touch an aspirational mark of 30,000. So these are what is adding to the overall business and consumer sentiment, and the overall country mood, which is looking very positive in terms of things looking good and people wanting to do more and being more adventurous in terms of what they have to set up. In terms of the market opening up and it impacting our attrition and our doubling up of our year-on-year hiring numbers is very, very evident. It's like a last 4 or 5 years kind of a journey when actually we, at that time when we had created our own internal HR RTREC plan for 2015, as to how as Airtel we will attract the workforce of future, and how we will build proactively our internal processes and systems to attract, as I said, the Gen Y, and how we will make ourselves ready. So some of these things we kick-started at that time, and now they are in a much more mature stage. So if I will go back to social networking sites, so whether it's LinkedIn or it's Monster online, I think it was way back 4 years, 5 years back that we kick-started that that initiative. And ever since then, we have really matured. So for your Gen Y, for your leadership roles, which you're looking from, say, the likes of your premier campuses or your campus strategy, what they are looking for is really that right click of a match and their aspiration, how we are able to cater to their calling, if I may put it. So that becomes their big need for that, that segment of population. How we are able to create that empowering environment and that innovating environment for them to experiment and create and build new solutions becomes a core need to cater to. And as I said, the third segment, which is your generic mass, Gen Y, so which is where maybe their driver is more compensation, or they may be more, if I may say, price sensitive or cost, comp sensitive population could be one. I think talent dynamics, if I may use one word, which sometimes becomes is labeling, and that dynamics becomes a symptom for the internal labeling, which we directly, indirectly as organizations have indulged in. So wherein you will do a labeling of a talent, either you belong to this category in terms of your performance, or you belong to the X category because of your job or your profile, and so on and so forth. So there is a top talent, there is a rock solid performer, there are people who will need some attention, who will need some improvement, and how we apply some of these terminologies internally is something which we have to do very sensibly. Being from a telecom, when we launched our first mobile USSD based application, and we branded it internally as MHR services. And it was not just hiring, but it is about giving a lot of transparency to our internal employees. So you name it, and a whole host of their eligibilities in terms of their dues or their payroll, salary, and stuff like that on mobile, just using a short code based USSD based application. And it was very early on, I think in 2011 or so, when we launched our first internal employee app, which we branded as Alive, which gives complete transparency to internal policies. You can go through HR tips, you can go through opt for leave, opt for car hire, opt for, apply for approvals for your travel, etc. All that you can do through the mobile app. Analytics is insights, and I believe in a good blend of hunch and insight and data insight. So the two need to go together. It's not just going with either or. It's like an and story of hunch, which is more experience-based, which you hear, which you listen to when you're just walking the corridor. And the other is proactively doing your data analytics to come up with insights and marrying the two. And the depth of capturing that more professionally, more scientifically. So the scale and the scope of it, I think, has become much deeper, and which is true for us as well. times and bad times have very different principles of operating. They have different, different emphasis as far as your hiring focus is concerned, as far as your retention practices are concerned, as far as your talent management is concerned. So it cuts across the whole hire and retire model, and it's a function of demand and supply. But some things are core to your philosophy of operating model, which when I was saying that we have to apply the talent dynamics, related stuff, more sensibly, that's more related to, I think, core philosophy or core operating model of the organization, which would be independent of a good time or a bad time. Mass role Gen Y kind of a category of talent. We have looked at compensation very differently for the first time this year. We have an offer salary, we have your 6 months compensation offer, and then we have an 18 months offer, or a compensation house. So actually good for the first 2 years, you have complete visibility in terms of how your compensation will look like. We have in fact this year we have also introduced a bit of a deferred income plan for entry level, because our challenge of early attrition was becoming very high. First is clearly understanding and really, fine combing what is needed by the organization at a macro and a micro level. And macro may be more universal sometimes, because that's something which you will read in the books, which you will Google, and which you will, and which become typical buzzwords. So if it's Gen Y, you will say, oh, we are looking at, so you will have a right amount of energy, you will look at right amount of communication, you will have, people, dropping right kind of sound bites, and that will define at a very, very macro 30,000 feet level. But at a more micro level, what is required for your organization? What is the kind of business that you are into? What are the products and services which you offer? And what are the key imperatives? What are the key drivers to bring that business to life? So I think as HR professionals, we do a very good job with functional competencies and with leadership competencies, but not maybe necessarily as good a job to test temperament or personality traits, if I may put it. But it's a combination of these three. If the training guys, I think the hiring guys really need to invest a lot of time in understanding and working with the business closely to articulate and to understand what is needed.